Thulsi Narayanasamy is the head of labour rights at the Business and Human Rights Resource Centre. She joins us live on Skype from London. Thanks for being with us. So we know about the kind of the shops closing in kind of Western countries and the effect on workers there. But tell us about the knock-on effect for people who kind of create the clothes that are then not sold.
The knock-on effect has been extraordinary, and really what this pandemic has shown is the incredible power of the fashion brands that we're familiar with on the high street to be able to shape the working conditions of 40 million garment workers around the world. What's ended up happening is these brands have shut their high street stores and rightly put forward a plan to help to protect their workers in stores. But what that's meant for garment workers is almost immediately they're facing destitution. You already mentioned that Bangladesh has seen an incredible loss of orders happening, but basically the structure of the garment industry has been created in a way that allows brands to evade the responsibility for workers in their supply chains. They don't directly own the factories, and therefore they say they don't directly employ the garment workers. These workers are incredibly vulnerable in ordinary times. They don't earn a wage that is enough to cover their basic living. Most of them have to work overtime in order to be able to feed themselves and their families. And so now they're coming to work and finding that the factories have closed with no understanding of when they'll open again and absolutely no safety net. They're left with basically nothing. They have no food. They're particularly vulnerable for the community that are migrant workers, which is a huge proportion of garment workers around the world. They're either international migrant workers, so for example, people from Thailand working in Cambodia, or people from Bolivia who are now working in Brazil, or a huge population of them are internal migrant workers. So, for example, in India, people who have migrated from the north of the country down to the south of the country. And because of how quickly things have evolved in these countries, they faced a lockdown at a time where they were still trapped in these cities, and they're now unable to go back home to their families, and they're having to rely on food rations.
Yeah, just sorry to interrupt you. You mentioned the fashion brands. I mean, is there any pressure on them internationally to try to do the right thing for the workers in the supply chain?
There certainly have been calls made from grassroots unions and working groups to hold these brands accountable to these workers. The demands are saying you need to take responsibility for these workers. You need to work with suppliers to pay them for the orders that they've already done. Many of these suppliers have issued cancellation notices saying we're not only going to suspend orders, we're also not going to pay for clothes that have already been made. So the first demand is just for these brands to pay for what it is that has been produced. And the second demand is for these big fashion brands to work closely with their suppliers to be able to ensure that they're provided for financially. But at the moment, there has been almost no response from brands to step up with a real plan for what it is that they're going to do to take responsibility.
Thulsi Narayanasamy, thank you very much indeed for explaining all that to us. Thank you.